I'm going to talk about a real problem, one that I have seen for quite some time, and I've wanted to do this video for quite some time. But it's so sensitive that I wanted to make sure I really thought it through, prayed on it, did my research. And while I can never do enough research, recently I was contacted by an 80-year-old lady who says, please do a video on covert narcissism. It is wrecking marriages, and people need to know the truth. And I was thrilled to get this email because I thought, wow, I have seen the problems with this, and I'm glad others are too. Now, you might be thinking, yes, my spouse is a narcissist. I need this video. Actually, it's the other way around. What this lady said is if you just type in the word covert, the first word that comes up on a Google search is covert narcissist. Of course, more and more people are looking for this. And so when you look for anything long enough, you start finding it. Here's what I'd like to talk about. I recently read an article. When you type that in and you get a specific article that comes up, and it talks about what is a covert narcissist. And I just want to read a little bit for you from this article. It says a covert narcissist is someone who craves attention, admiration, and importance, lacking empathy toward others, but may act in a different way than an overt narcissist. They may exhibit symptoms of narcissistic personality disorder, but often hide the more obvious signs of the condition. While it can be more difficult to recognize, covert narcissism can be just as destructive as more overt narcissistic behaviors. Now, I want to stop right there. So, we may not always recognize what we're reading when we read it. But first of all, covert narcissism, she writes down, is a condition. And that is the first flaw. Because so many people, specifically psychologists, which, by the way, do you know where psychology is? It is the study of the soul. And I bet no psychologists know that today, or very few, because anyway, it's been so distorted. So the studying of the soul, when we look at narcissism is basically an extreme focus on the self. Biblically spoken, selfishness. And we're all born selfish. Some of us to greater degree than others, greater and lesser degree. So does that mean every human being born is a narcissist? Well, based on this article, perhaps. Because anytime you focus too much on the self, you must be a narcissist. But if it's not that big of a deal, it might be covert. And so the article goes on to say, let's go dig and see how you can tell if someone's covert. And so she says some of the common traits of narcissism are having a strong sense of self-importance, experiencing fantasies about fame or glory, exaggerating self-abilities, craving admiration, exploiting others, and lacking empathy. Can we stop right there? How many people do you know who have a strong sense of self-importance? I know many. We live in a society that says, build your self-esteem and it's all about you. Does that mean we're all narcissists? Perhaps. But experiencing fantasies about fame or glory, what does that look like? When I was a little girl, I used to dream about one day being a movie star. And I used to, because I could sing and I could dance. And I thought that'd be wonderful. Does that mean I'm a narcissist? Was that a fantasy or was that just a dream or a vision? Is there a difference between a fantasy and a dream? Don't know. They don't explain. But does that make every little child, every man or woman who busts their backside to succeed at something, seeking fame, seeking glory, a narcissist? No, in terms of the Christian faith, God says, do not glory in anything but the cross. Okay, but it takes us time to learn that. I used to want glory, but as I matured in my faith, I realized I just want to give God glory every time I sing a song. I don't need you to tell me how beautiful I sing. I want God to get the glory. But if I do like it too much when they tell me I sound like an angel, does that mean I'm a narcissist too? Maybe, perhaps, right? They exaggerate their self abilities. Well, I've seen jobs Where they always say, when you're going for your interview, tell them what you do. Resume writing, make it sound even better. Point these things out, give them numbers. It's okay if you exaggerate a little. Does that mean everyone that tells you how to write a resume is a narcissist? Does that mean everyone who takes that class and learns to do so, are they too a narcissist? Oh, it must be covert. Must be covert because, this isn't overt. Oh, I'm so angry about this. Yes. So you're going to see this in my personality. It also says craving admiration, exploiting others. Well, a little bit of exploiting others, that's not normal. But so many of us crave admiration. That's not narcissism, guys. That's basic humanity. That is a man or a woman walking this earth trying to figure out where we fit. And yeah, there are some jerks out there. I'm not sitting behind this camera trying to say that, no, everybody's good. That's what I work with. I work with couples with extreme selfishness. We got to work to be selfless. I was selfish, got to learn to be more selfless. How about you? Have you become more selfless as you've aged? Because does that mean you were a narcissist before, but now you're not? Or what about you that always put everybody else first and now you're like, dang it, I'm not doing that anymore? Does that mean you never used to be, but now you're a narcissist? Because now you're putting yourself first? I could go on, but there's a real big problem here. Because so many of these counselors, so many people who read these articles on the internet, they come to me. And I can't even tell you the number of times that people said to me, and probably you watching, oh, my spouse is a narcissist. I've read this stuff. Well, guess what? Google changes their definitions to fit what they want. Do you know the definition of love has changed for hundreds and hundreds of years? Go read my book, The Super Couple. I went back and I grabbed the oldest English dictionary ever written in the 1700s, and I got all the dictionaries after that. And I read the definition of love and I watched how it changed from something spiritual and selfless to something physical, and then becoming selfish, then becoming sexual, then becoming lust, and even pointing towards, there was one definition, as a young man, as an old man lusts for a young woman. Well, that's not love, but that was in the dictionary. So these things that we read online, if you're the one that's reading it to see if your spouse is a narcissist, stop. Stop. Because they're going to change it and it's going to make you think, like these guys want to do, that this is unchangeable. Another thing, when you see the word trait, which I'm reading right here in this article, a trait is static. Static means it doesn't change. Well, if my spouse is like that, they'll never change. They're a narcissist after all. No. By God's grace, everyone can change. I've seen an abuser become a good and holy man. A couple of them, actually. So in this article, and what they put as the causes, let's just list some of the causes of this supposed narcissism. Genetics. Oh, right there. There's my point. Oh, you're born that way. Well, we don't need God because it can't be fixed. Childhood abuse and trauma. Oh, yeah. Our childhoods have everything to do with who we are as an adult. Of course, we're going to respond based on ways our parents raised us. And I am employed. All these counselors, coaches are helping people to rethink their childhoods to live a healthy life now. So even if it is something you learned from your childhood, doesn't mean it can't change. It also says right underneath it, another cause of supposed covert narcissism, upbringing and relationships with caregivers. Well, yeah, duh. And lastly, personality and temperament. I do the Myers-Briggs, I'm certified. I talk about the differences in personalities, extroverts, introverts, sensors versus intuitives, thinkers versus feelers. All of those are on a continuum and they all can slide, and they do slide, sometimes daily, major events in your life. They all shift in degree with age, either more towards the extreme or more towards the middle. I can extrovert myself and introvert myself. I can make decisions based on my thinking, logic, or my feelings and empathy. or sometimes both at the same time. Our personalities change. We have a kind of core that will always be us. But you guys, this is devastating. And this is why I had to bring this up. If you're saying my spouse is a narcissist, you've given up on the chance of fixing your marriage. And here's what's worse. There's a little bit of a speck in your eye, plank in mine kind of thing here. When we look at our spouse and say, well, they're a narcissist, we kind of exonerate ourselves. The fault is all him or all her. And trust me, when I've heard you people, all of you, my clients, who's ever watching this video, call me, I get it. The things you're saying, I'm like, oh, that was a really jerk move. And I even look at you and I say, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry you had to deal with that. But I say that to you, whether you call your spouse a narcissist or not. You've got to understand what Satan is trying to do. He is trying to take something that is changeable and fixable and say, it can't be fixed. Get out. You have an excuse. He wants to destroy marriage. I think you see my passion about this. It's just been eating away at me. And just because I'm known for my controversial statements, I will say something I know I've said before. It's the same as when people say alcoholism is a disease. Now, again, I get it. Once you've drunk so much, your brain changes. But a disease is something you've never had any control over. And a disease is something where I can make a choice to stop eating sugar, but that's not going to make my cancer go away. I can make a choice to stop drinking alcohol, and that will make my alcoholism, I don't want to say go away, but I won't be drunk and I won't suffer the consequences. There's a control factor in these names that get us to think or give up. And again, I have beloved family members. I think of one that may even be watching this video. And I understand how terrible it was. But when we name something and that word has a meaning in our language, disease has the understanding it's something that happens to you that you have no control over. And that 80-year-old family member of mine knows, but she does have control over it. Is it hard as hell? Absolutely. You need friends, you need a support network, you need prayers, you need self-discipline, but all these things you can get by God's grace. It's a cross. Narcissistic behavior is changeable. It is selfishness. The choice can be made to become more selfless. What kind of language do you use that kind of puts the fault on the other? And deep down, does it in any way exonerate you? Not sure. It's not true in all cases because I've talked to some very, very holy men and women who come to me and say, I think my spouse is a narcissist. And the first thing I do is say, yeah, well, we're all selfish. What does that have to do? Let's get past that and get into your marriage. What can we do? I don't know if there's much more about this that I need to say, but check your language. Go and don't Google search something. Go to those places that we once called a library. They actually have real things in them that have pages called books. How about an encyclopedia set? Go read the oldest encyclopedia set that maybe your grandparents passed down to you. Look up something. Look at the definition then. Go look at the definitions as they changed over time. Remember, definitions are just things that a man or a woman, based on what was happening in culture, went and put in writing. This is what we believe the definition of this word is, this understanding. And as culture progresses, we change the definition. Look at Wikipedia. They have people going and changing things all the time. But you're smarter than that. I appreciate that you watched this video. Sorry if you don't like my passion. I am passionate, and this is a very important subject. Recognize how it could be destroying your thoughts about a reconciled relationship with a spouse, family member, friend, or anyone. No one is beyond change. No one. By God's grace, they can become the man or woman that God ordained them to be. They only have to make a choice. I'm Dr. Christine Bacon. Thanks for watching Breakfast with Bacon. And don't forget to live your life sunny side up.